This is Present Politics, hosted by leading political strategist Rashad Ritchie and civil rights attorney Robert Patillo. Listen as they interview trendsetters and newsmakers, both local and national. This is our time to talk about political issues that matter to us. Guaranteed to be controversial and always informative. Join us every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. only on Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio. You can also listen online at presentpolitics.com.
Good afternoon and great Saturday, everybody. Welcome to Present Politics. I'm your host, Robert Patillo. We have a jam-packed show this weekend. There's so much in the news, so many stories to get to. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Our co-host, Rashad Ritchie, will be joining us shortly. Also, we'll be joined by attorney Harry Daniels, one of the leading criminal defense attorneys in the city, who's going to be talking about some of the national stories in the news. Things such as the shooting of the young lady in Washington, D.C. who tried to ram the White House, the issue that took place in New York where the driver of an SUV was attacked by bikers and claimed self-defense and running one of them over. So we're going to touch on stories like that. But we want to lead off the show by thanking our listeners. As you guys know, we've been on the air for over a month now, and we've been getting a great response. So we just wanted to say hello and thank everyone who listens in. I want to thank Daniel Hill, who's been really active on the Present Politics Facebook page. We'd like to thank Jessica, who's listening from Greenville, South Carolina every week. We would like to thank all the brothers who are joining in the conversation and keeping the show alive, keeping it moving, and helping us become one of the fastest growing political shows in Atlanta and in the nation. We're moving up, moving fast, and we just want to thank all of you for being on the ride with us. But what I wanted to start off with, and we're going to touch on this more later on in the show, but we definitely want to start on this topic of the government shutdown. The government shutdown, as many of you know, took place this week because that's the problem. None of us know why the government shutdown took place. It's nonsensical. It's not something that is easily explained. We have a situation where a radical group of politicians decided to play chicken, decided to threaten to run the country off a cliff for no reason, and then went through with it. And then the most amazing part is that it's become completely negatory because the House last night passed a bill which will allow all government employees who are currently being furloughed to be paid back pay for their time out of work during the shutdown. So we've given 800,000 people a free vacation. How do you give people a free vacation just to come into work, just to sit at home and not work? That's what the government shutdown has done. We're not dealing with a situation where we're doing any real impact on our governing. We're paying people not to work at this point. We've passed supplemental spending bills that will allow all of our military personnel to be paid, not affected by the government shutdown. So what are we really doing? We're really doing nothing. Now, I wanted to bring into this conversation on the government shutdown our esteemed co-host, Rashad Ritchie. How you doing, Rashad?
I'm good. I'm running late.
I've known you long enough. That's understood.
Yes.
But what's your opinion on this government shutdown?
Well, I do tend to agree. I mean, one, is unproductive, but basically the money will be reimbursed to the individuals who are not working right now. Matter of fact, I met a young lady yesterday who's an attorney for Homeland Security, and she's out of the New York office, and she was not upset about the furlough because she's been through it before. She worked under the Clinton administration, and even though that was very short-lived, she realizes that this is a vacation for her.
Paid vacation.
And she will be reimbursed every dime. And she's not considered essential staff, so she does not have to report.
But what sense does it make for the party that is supposedly fiscal conservatives to make the government pay people to not work for however long they feel like? What sense does that make for the fiscal conservatives?
The whole thing's ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. And I hope that when all of this washes out and the political chips fall as they may, that individuals, that Americans will realize that you had this political ideology of the Affordable Health Care Act that has now sent the country into, especially those that we need the most, into basically a free fall. And, there's no way that Republicans can justify what they're doing. Now they're trying to force Congress to fund certain parts of the government, right? Trying to fund this part of government, that part of government. It's not going to work. Pay your bills, okay? Pay your bills. And the Republicans have done this. They've been consistent at doing it. And I'm hopeful that America will be able to see it for what it is. And I'm actually proud of the president because usually when he says, I will not compromise on something, he compromises. He didn't compromise on this one.
Well, there's really nowhere further to compromise on it. We've passed the Republican health care bill. The Obamacare is the Republican health care bill. The Democratic health care bill, and I think I say this every week, the Democratic health care bill was Hillary Care. Democratic health care bill was single payer that made Medicare for all.
That's
correct. The Democratic bill.
Right.
So right now we are arguing over the Republican bill. How are the Republicans arguing in a conversation that they have won already? Why can't you say I win?
And the strange thing about it, and you're correct on that, the strange thing is when you look at the Affordable Health Care Act and you poll the Affordable Health Care Act as it is, as Obamacare, it polls very negatively with Republicans. However, if you take that same Health Care Act, poll it item by item, and then it has a positive, a favorable rating. You have 60-70% of Republicans that agree with the actual content of Obamacare. But there was a lot of compromise. There's no single payer system. And that's something that Democrats push for. And honestly, a lot of progressives became upset at the president for compromising on that one point.
But it wasn't just the single payer point. He even compromised on the government option. And for those of you who remember the healthcare debate, the government option was creating a government healthcare insurance system that people had the option, not the requirement, just
right.
the option to buy into. And that was the compromise from the compromise. We have compromised all the way to the Republican position, and now we are still fighting over the Republicans' argument that they have already won.
Robert, you actually sounded like a Democrat today, man. Look, that is amazing.
You know what I like to do? I
don't know which Robert is going to show up in the studio.
I call myself a moderate for a reason. That I see things as black and white issues. There's right, there's wrong. I don't fall into a particular ideology. On this situation, the Democrats are the ones who should be shutting down the government over Obamacare. If you look at the original bill,
here it comes.
This was the same bill that was proposed by the Republicans in 1993 and had 44 Republican senators sign on.
So who gets the credit for it, Robert? Who should get the credit?
Who gets credit for it? That's the crazy thing. The Republicans.
I'm gonna bring that Republican out of you if it kills me, Robert.
Look, I'm telling you, nobody wants credit for this bill. This is the same bill that Mitt Romney passed in Massachusetts.
Accurate. That's true.
So we have Democrats up in arms fighting to pass Romneycare, fighting to defend Romneycare.
But do you agree with the legislation as a whole?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No,
there you go.
My issue,
here it comes.
My issue.
I knew you were in there, Robert.
Look, my issue with the mandate. Mm-hmm. The mandate is that you're penalizing and taxing individuals for living. That's what it comes down to. As the Supreme Court says, that's the first time that we have a tax on inaction. That as long as you are alive, breathing air, you have to purchase insurance. And if you do not, you are fined. There's no way out of it. There's no opt-out. There's no way to, unless you leave the country or fake your death, you're going to have to pay this, which is something I don't believe the federal government has the power to do. Because as you've heard so many times in the arguments, just like when they expanded the Commerce Clause to give the Congress additional powers after during the Civil Rights era and after the New Deal. After that happened, it expanded for another 100 years. That is, after that commerce power and the dormant commerce clause was created, they expanded the power of the federal government to touch almost anything. They making the argument that if you stay in a hotel that gets something from out of state, therefore the federal government has the power to regulate what you do under its commerce power. So now that we've given the government the ability to tax you simply for being alive, which is what Obamacare does. It mandates you to do something, and then it penalizes you for not doing that. Because of that, where will it end?
What happens to those who are unemployed, Robert?
Well, then Medicaid, there are additional programs built within the healthcare exchanges to either put you on government-assisted healthcare, something like Medicaid or Medicare, and then also there are supplements within the government health exchanges so that you should be able to afford it within your budget.
Let me say this to you, because I believe that fundamentally the Affordable Health Care Act is necessary. Our system was broken, and this is a way to fix it. Now, it's going to take some time for us to see the results of that. But Robert, when you work a job, you pay into a Social Security system.
Correct.
Okay. Do you agree with the Social Security system?
Absolutely.
Okay. Why?
Because it's a way of supplementing people's income so that even if they are not saving for their own retirement, we won't have a situation like we had in the 1920s where you work at a job for 50 years and then you're sitting at home 70, 75, 80 years old and now you can't eat, you have nothing coming in. And we had so many elderly people being destitute because of it. So,
okay. And we've had a broken healthcare system for many years in America because we have individuals who are uninsured, who are raising the price of small items, small medical items, to 10 times its actual value. And the individuals who pay insurance have to eat that cost. This is a way to get that cost down and to take care of people and to make sure pre-existing conditions are not biased against by insurance companies. It's a good piece of legislation, Robert.
But I've never heard of a strategist for the Democratic Party argue Mitt Romney's points.
Well, listen,
so articulately.
Brother, right is right.
So you're
and guess what? It was President Obama's point.
So
it was the Democratic Congress's point.
So why weren't you campaigning for Romney?
Well, because my guy actually passed the law. That's why. Okay.
But
nationally, my guy passed it.
But my issue is, if we're going to be sitting here fighting, here we are, 3-4 years after the legislation went into place, we are fighting tooth and nail, shutting down the government, putting people out of work, sending veterans away from the World War II memorial, closing down the Grand Canyon. Shouldn't we have gotten the piece of legislation we wanted? Shouldn't we have gotten single payer out of this? Shouldn't we have gotten the government option out of it?
We can argue all day that certain compromises were made by the president. Obviously, I did not agree with every single compromise, but something that is this big, there had to be compromise. And even with the compromises, Robert, the Republicans still chose to unanimously vote against Obamacare.
Well, that's because it's Obamacare.
Right.
This is the funny thing. I think that the Republicans have maybe done a Jedi mind trick that none of us are going to realize for a couple years, where they fought so hard against the single-payer system. They fought so hard against the government, the public option. Mm-hmm. They even fought until the point that they've staked out this extreme position just to get Obama and the Democrats to pass the law they wanted in the first place.
Well, it's the most partisan, major piece of partisan legislation we've seen in modern history.
I agree completely.
You're talking about directly down partisan lines, no ifs, ands, or buts, no wavering. And now the PR of that has set in. And then, we have the naysayers, but I believe that there's a strong sense of dislike and criticism and hatred toward the president because of his background, because of his ethnicity. I think that has something to do with it, and because he is a progressive. But he compromised on this bill.
I don't know if I'll call him a progressive.
No, come on, Robert. Let me say this. He's more progressive than Bill Clinton was. Bill Clinton was a moderate.
No. Barack Obama is a moderate Republican. He is mildly...
I have heard it all.
No, if you look at his legislative record, you look at his speeches, he doesn't govern from the left. He doesn't govern from the left of center. He is either straight down the middle or just slightly left of right.
I want to take some calls on that one. Listen, join the conversation, 404-355-8699. That's 355-8699. Call with your questions and comments. Everything will be listened to. Everything will not be agreed with. We have a guest, Robert. I know you have a guest.
We have a guest. We're about to go to break, but I just want to bring him in. Now, this is attorney Harry Daniels from the Daniels De La Cruz law firm. He is a legal expert. He is one of the few people you will meet who is an attorney, who is a former military serviceman, who is formerly a member of law enforcement. The man has done everything. I think he might be a black belt in karate. I'm not certain. He is an outstanding criminal defense attorney. I remember just walking through the courthouse with him up in Carrollton a few weeks ago. You will think the mayor was walking in. So it's going to be great to hear his take on some of these issues, and absolutely, we have a great conversation coming up.
Well, brother, we welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. I look forward to it.
One of the things I'm going to talk to Harry about this as well. I think we've all seen the video of the guy who was driving his SUV, had his family inside, and we see what happened, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to get Harry to kind of chime in on that and give us his thoughts after the break.
Yeah, so we're going to throw the break, and then afterwards we're going to take your calls, and we're going to talk to attorney Harry Daniels right here on Present Politics. Love 860 WAEC.
The lawyers of Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman offer the quality, experience, and expertise of a big firm, but with the personalized, client-centered approach to legal services that only a smaller firm can offer. Practice areas include personal injury, auto accidents, slip and fall, and negligent security, plus on-the-job injury, bankruptcy, family law, business and corporate law, wills and estates, and charter schools. Call today to see why Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman should be your one-stop law shop for all of your business and personal needs. Conveniently located in Decatur, within 5 miles of both 285 and I-20. Call and schedule an appointment right now. 404-289-2244. 404-289-2244. Or go online to jhclawyers.com. The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience.
Some nights I can't get to sleep. Some nights I can't stay asleep. With Unisom, I can do both.
Unisom sleep tabs are clinically proven to help you fall asleep 33% faster and keep you asleep longer, so you get a more restful night's sleep. Made with an ingredient not found in other leading sleep aids, Unisom sleep tabs are safe and non-habit forming. Just one pill takes the uncertainty out of bedtime, giving you the sleep you need.
So I wake up ready to go.
Unisom sleep tabs. Fall asleep faster. Sleep longer.
Hey, it's Guy Fieri, and before the game, it's all about the tailgating. Burgers, sausage and peppers, onions, hot wings, you name it. But come game time, if you got yourself a whole bunch of heartburn, roll out the Rolaids.
Don't let heartburn keep you from enjoying the things you love. Rolaids gets you back in the action fast. Its dual-active formula neutralizes more acid than Tums. For indigestion and heartburn, get rapid relief with Rolaids.
Rolaids? Now that's how you spell relief.
Use as directed. Acid neutralization may not correlate with symptom relief.
Middle Georgia Productions and ATL Radio presents Rimshot Urban Musical, nominated ATL's Hottest Stage Play 2013. Rimshot Urban Musical integrates the works of a dynamic group of positive and innovative musicians, artists, scribes, and dancers while conveying an engaging, educational, and stimulating message. How far would you be willing to go for fame? Fortune. Things aren't always what they seem. The highly anticipated Rimshot Anniversary Celebration is on November 23rd at 7 o'clock at the Rockdale County Auditorium in Conyers, Georgia. To secure your tickets today, visit www.rimshoturbanmusical.com. Follow the movement on Facebook at Rimshot Urban Musical or call us at 678-306-3616. Rimshot Urban Musical, performing arts for social change.
Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio. I'm your co-host, Rashad Ritchie, along with Robert Patillo. You are listening to Present Politics, and we have a lively discussion. So we're going to switch from Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act. But first, I want to take David, who's in Tucker. David, you're on there.
Yes. I think that Obama's foreign policy and his domestic policy are remarkably different from each other, and in many, many ways, particularly regarding national security and intervention in other countries, the Obama administration has actually taken Bush policy and taken it to the next level. I give you an example of they took a lot of things that Bush used as executive orders that infringed on personal liberties in the U.S. and got it through the House and the Senate with Republican and Democratic support, and President Obama signed those restrictions into law. So that's taking it another level. He's also bombed more countries than Bush did. He's intervened in Libya, which, frankly, Gaddafi was a known contained commodity, and now we're just throwing dice on what's going on with Libya. That isn't necessarily a success. It's just a change.
And you know what? This goes to my point that I always get shouted down, almost get stoned when I say it. But President Obama's policies are very much what a moderate Republican would do. He's expanded the liberties expanded the powers he has under the Patriot Act. We still have Guantanamo Bay. We still have a drone program. We have a domestic spying program that will put Bush and Cheney to shame. We have the NSA, the issues with the NSA. We have the Republican health care bill that we passed. We passed Romney Care nationally. We haven't been following progressive policy.
Let me say this, and
These
David,
are Republican policies.
David, you have great points, and I actually agree with you 100%. Internationally, President Obama has been a president. He is privy to certain information that you or I we do not have. He understands the scope of intelligence in ways that we could not comprehend. So those decisions that are made by the people that we elect, especially to the highest office in our land, we're going to have to take it in good faith that he has a little more information than we have. But David, I would ask you a question. Do you believe that the way the president governs domestically is Republican-like as well?
Well, if you follow the parties over the decades, what's considered mainstream policy has fluctuated a good deal. I'm considered a conservative now, but in 1960 I would have been considered a JFK Democrat.
Okay.
I think that Obama's view of things, foreign policy and domestic, are incredibly different. I give you one example, videotape I've seen several times while he was campaigning. He insisted that because he'd grown up with Muslims, that the day he was going to be elected, there would be a sea change in attitude toward the United States in the Muslim world.
Right.
All right. Now, that ignores, history. It makes him being just, a transcendent figure, which in foreign policy I don't believe he is. Obviously, being the first black president of the U.S., that definitely is a sea change, whoever happened to be that person. But I think that his view of the world is far too inaccurate for him to be particularly effective.
Why do you think his view of the world is inaccurate?
I believe that he's freely acknowledged, but he's occasionally reversed this, that the United States is not an exceptional country. He says, basically everyone thinks their country's exceptional. Well, historically speaking, the United States is a statistical freak in many, many ways. Good example, there is no reason that Russia should not be a superpower like us, but their political and economic system, and to some degree their culture, has retarded them enormously. The U.S. has taken full advantage of their circumstances, and people from all over the world have contributed their talents. They are the opposite of, for example, China. China's 97% one ethnic group. They're Han Chinese. they exterminated their minorities. They don't have much of a minority issue. They don't have them. The U.S., if you look at powerful people in the government and in private enterprise, you can pull just about any ethnicity from the world that's been here for any period of time and find individuals who have great power, success, and respect.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I do believe in American exceptionalism. I do believe that America has a special place in the world, a special place for leadership. And you're right. When you look at other nations that have been around for millennia, that were, planted the seeds of their civilization in 2,000-3,000 years ago and have been building, it's a complete anomaly that America is the world superpower after only 300 years in existence. But I think the more fundamental point is that we've seen President Obama be, and this is why I say that he's a moderate. I say that he's a right-leaning moderate, because there's a good portion of his,
which is ridiculous.
There's a good
go ahead, Robert.
There's a good portion of his policies which you would hear from progressives. Things such as America's just one among all nations. We're not supposed to be the world leader. Some of his stances on social policies, things such as that.
Robert,
but then when you get to the nitty gritty of the things that have been passed, it's down the line Republican policies.
First of all, let me challenge you on one point, David. The president never said America is not exceptional. Okay, he brought out a point of fact that pretty much every country believes that their country is exceptional. Even the very small countries, there's a strong sense of heritage and purity of culture, and they believe that that's what makes their country exceptional. Okay, so at no point has he said America is not an exceptional country.
Now, what you're saying that the citizens feel that their countries are exceptional, but if you step back from being a U.S. citizen and just look at U.S. behavior in the 200 years of independence, and even predating that, because they would not have had a representative government if they hadn't been colonized by England, because Spain, Portugal, and Germany did not allow free elections in their colonies at all, that it is statistically speaking, this kind of behavior in a nation state is extremely unusual. The only rough and very rough analogy would be Switzerland, and Switzerland's basically been surrounded by mountains, and no one wanted to go in there for centuries. The U.S. is go ahead.
But what I wanted to get your opinion on, because it's always good to have people consider themselves moderates or conservatives chime in on this. If you were to just look at the legislative record of President Obama since he's been in office, the bills that he has passed, would you agree that the majority of them would be more right-leaning legislation?
Well, let me put in a little observation here that kind of one reason there's such a muddy water on this issue. When you take political science, I think the way they've got things structured with communism and fascism on opposite sides is incorrect. Communism and fascism are indeed shoulder to shoulder with each other. They only differ in whether the government owns the means of production or not. I would say that at the opposite end from fascism and communism, you have anarchy where you have no government whatsoever. And I think that's one of the problems we have with defining left and right here, is if you define ultimate rightism as fascism and ultimate leftism as communism, I think you've set up a false set of poles.
But David, do you believe, now you're a conservative gentleman, do you believe that the president has governed from the right? That's a yes or no. If you're a conservative because you have a certain set of platforms that you believe in, right? You have a set of ideals that brings that conservative view under one umbrella. Do you believe that the president has governed, as Robert suggests, from the right?
I think in foreign policy, in a very peculiar way, I think he's governed from the right. And domestically, I think it's a potpourri in the national security issues. The left and the right are perfectly willing to compromise civil liberties, and they have done so. As I previously mentioned, the example of the Patriot Act and when President Obama was called on all these restrictions on personal liberties, his speech did not say he wanted to retrench in any means whatsoever. What he did was try to tell the American people to feel better about it, not to change anything. So if it's a restriction of liberties, you can call that right wing or left wing. They just do the same thing for different reasons.
And you know that, and that's the point that I'm trying to get. Now, Harry, I want you to bring you in on this. Now, what's been your understanding of President Obama's governing strategy? Has it been from the left, from the right, from the center? Where do you think he comes in on this?
Well, I agree with Dave from Tucker. Definitely towards the right when it comes to international policy, as it pertains to national policy, left. As far as the Affordable Health Care Act, one thing.
I don't mean to cut you off, Harry. And David, thank you. I appreciate your call. I appreciate you listening. First of all, who has defined that having a strong defense plan or having a spy network, this is what we do. We are a country that has a lot of different types of enemies, and we have a spy plan. We have a spy network. Who all of a sudden said that this is Republican-like? Who said that this is conservative? Where did that come from?
Well, I would take, I think you brought up a great point. The intel that the president gets every morning is one that we don't have privy to.
Right.
And being a former military member myself, even being in the field, being overseas and being at war, we didn't get privy to it all either. We just given orders to follow suit to carry out the mission. But one thing I did when I took my oath, we will defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And for as and I agree with you, Rashad. You're talking about, it doesn't mean it's from the right or left. A threat is real. Some of the threats that this country have faced, some of the things that we don't even know about, and it was cut off through our intel and some of the policies that any president that's truly believing in protecting the United States and upholding the Constitution is going to act. But I guess the thing that a lot of people see and say, well, this is more Republican than so Democrat. September 11th, that's the greatest attack on this soil. So happened at that time a Republican president was in office and he acted. And some of those things he put in place have prevented further terrorist acts on this soil. However, some of the things that he did abroad was disagreed about several people, to include myself, one who been in Iraq.
But this is my thing. We didn't give Bush this slack. We were burning effigies of Bush. People were throwing shoes at him for these same policies. Instead of when Obama does it, it's like, all right, I'm okay. Well, it ain't that bad this time.
The president has been just as villainized for his tactics.
But not by the same people. He's being just as villainized by the same people who villainize a different set of people than villainize Bush. It's almost as if people can't see it objectively.
Robert, it's a matter of being the president. That's all that is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Then what's the point of changing parties? What's the point of even getting a new president?
Because there are fundamental differences in the direction of this country now.
If Romney had been elected and was forced to pass universal health care, he would have passed the same bill as
Robert, okay, let me ask you something. Let me ask you this. You keep bringing up Romney like he's a factor. He's not. He hasn't been a factor since the day after. The day after he lost his election, the Republicans have thrown him completely to the wayside.
He want to attack Iran as well. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. So if you had a choice, Robert, because you keep comparing Romney as if he's some kind of equal in policy and platform. So let's say, in your perfect world, Romney is the same as President Obama. Which would you choose?
At this point, it doesn't matter.
See,
no, think about it.
Rob, which one would you choose? Because you keep bringing him up like he's the same, right?
My point is that if Romney was elected, we would have had the same health care bill. If Romney was elected, we would have had the same foreign policy. If Romney was elected, we'd probably have the same immigration bill, which is none. So what was the point of having the election? What was the point of us getting out there? If Obama's going to govern like a moderate Republican, what's the point of the election? Let's have a crapshoot every year, and then I can take the fall off from doing campaigns.
Listen, guys, join the conversation, 404-355-8699, 404-355-8699. David, I appreciate you listening to the program. I always appreciate our conservatives who are able to talk and not scream and shout and be emotional like I can be sometimes. But Robert, I think you kind of fit. Did you vote for Romney?
No, I voted for Obama.
You're talking like you voted for Romney.
I voted for Obama twice. I supported the Hope and Change platform.
So why did you vote for him again, saying, well, Romney's basically the same?
Well, look, the difference is because the first time, the first election, 2008, I was in Grant Park when he got inaugurated, crying with all my friends. We drove to D.C. for inauguration, stood out there in that freezing cold. The second time, we're like, well, I ain't got nothing else to do, so I might as well vote for Obama. Like, oh, well.
Robert, that is sad, Robert.
It's not my fault. I wasn't the president.
That is
it's
sad.
It's his fault. It is performance oriented. I was expecting hope and change. I was expecting dreams. Obama during the speech said, I will heal the earth. This is what he said.
Robert. First of all, stop.
On YouTube, Obama said, I will heal the earth.
Robert, I'm sorry that he turned out to be a politician. All right, you voted, sir, for a politician. Politicians make great speeches. You're a politician. You make great speeches. I've heard you bring the house down. I've brought houses down. We talk. Right? We're not transformational characters. We're not leaders that aren't prone to making a lot of stupid decisions. And sometimes there's an element of compromise that has to be taken into account. As I say everywhere, we do not elect kings in the United States of America. We elect a president, and the president has a whole lot of other people that have to work with him, including the United States citizens.
Look, this is Obama's version of compromise. If him and Boehner go into the room, Obama says, okay, you win. Can we leave now? That's the way things have been going.
No. Harry.
What have we won on it from the left?
Well, first of all, if you want to look at just a straight up and down partisan vote, obviously they tried their best to block his signature piece of legislation.
Romney care?
There you go. See, you know what? I'm going to call Mitt Romney. I'm going to say I got your biggest fan because, Robert, I haven't heard Mitt Romney's name so many times in 2 minutes since he lost his election bid for president. All right? So we're going to get Romney on the show. We're going to get him to call in because I have his biggest fan right here next to me. Can we get off of Mitt Romney? He is a non-factor.
He is a non-factor, except that we are passing all of his legislation for him.
Now it's all of his legislation, Robert. It was just Romney care. Now it's all of his legislation.
Well, we're doing his national security program. We're doing his health care program.
What national security program? This guy never had a national security program, Robert.
The same stand. He is the placeholder for the right. It's whoever you want to insert into the suit. It doesn't matter the name. They're all going to have the same policy. So apparently now it's the Republicans all have the same policy,
Robert,
and the Democrats probably have a similar policy.
Could it simply be the reason why presidents on both sides of the political aisle have governed our national defense in similar ways? Could it simply be that they have similar intelligence, that they place partisan politics aside, and that they govern from a place of facts and information rather than party platform? Could that be the reason?
I think the reason is because they're both being funded by the same defense contractors. That Boeing and Lockheed Martin and everyone else, Halliburton and the rest of them who are putting the money into these campaigns, they have a vested interest in the military-industrial complex continuing its global policies. That's why you have you
don't win Illuminati on me then.
No, that's not the Illuminati. That's Dwight Eisenhower, the military-industrial complex. Harry Hopkins.
Robert, just because you change political parties, the threat does not change. The threat is still real, and the intel you receive is still the same intel, regardless of Republican, Democrat, liberal. Doesn't matter. When you look at the country as a whole today, foreign policy, some of those things are put in place to protect us from things that could happen. And you talking about defense contracts and Boeing and Lockheed Martin, all those things. I think those things are very relevant. What's relevant is when you got terrorists overseas, or you got terrorists in the United States, and their main things is to bring about terror. If it's the Boston Marathon, or it's in the Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta, one thing to bring terror. In the intel that you receive, things have to be set in place to deter terrorists. I can tell you from a personal standpoint. I remember when I was in Iraq, and we just came back out of the field, and some of the insurgents were actually shot. And not all of them was mortally wounded. They were shot and brought into our field hospital. And even from the table, the United States doctors, the military doctors, working on them, trying to save their life, they were still from the table trying to get to us. That's one thing you got to understand. It's real. It is legitimate. And whatever intel that our leaders get, Republican, Democrat, they have to act. And you may not agree with it, but a lot of those things must be done to protect us.
I agree with that point, but when I say the military-industrial complex, it's bigger than simply the quote-unquote war on terror. For example, right now, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the show. Right now, the U.S. Air Force has 3 different sets.
He's talking about my branch never shot.
I know. He better be careful. This man's a black belt, Robert.
Absolutely. We have 3 different bombers inside. One, the B-2 and the B-52. Pretty much the strategic bombing capacity of America was neutralized. That's why we got rid of the Strategic Air Command back in 1991 and changed over to a more tactical force using guided missiles, other things. Mm-hmm. But we still keep 3 different bombers in service. Why? So we can keep paying Lockheed Martin. Right now, they're using B-1 stealth bombers, a $500 million bomber, to shoot pirates in the in the Gulf over there in Somalia. You're using a $500 million plane to shoot canoes because we have nothing else to do with them. So my point is we have to be in a state of perpetual war. And because of this, because of the influence
war is big money. We all know that.
Because of the influence of these defense contractors, we end up the same policies, whether it's a Republican office, whether it's a Democrat in office, it doesn't matter because the money flows in the same way.
Well, I tend to agree somewhat, but I do believe that is all tempered with actual intelligence that comes to the president, as well as to the chief of staff. The Joint Chiefs.
And when you look at spending cuts for the military, the F-22 Raptor, there was a cut in the F-22 Raptor spending. One, we had issues with the pilots blacking out in the air. And 2, at this point, those planes cost almost $1 billion to build one plane. Mm-hmm. And at this time, we're not in that type of war. We had a comeback urban war with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban.
Harry, we're going to keep you on, and we're going to continue the conversation, but I want to kind of shift slightly because I want to talk about the incident that happened where the gentleman was attacked by motorcyclists. And, we want to get into that and figure out what's your legal opinion and was he justified in doing what he did to get away from him. But when we come back from commercial, I have a very special guest because I want to help a few people out there today. So we're going to have a special guest come on here, talk to you about affordable housing. You're listening to Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio.
The lawyers of Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman offer the quality, experience, and expertise of a big firm, but with the personalized, client-centered approach to legal services that only a smaller firm can offer. Practice areas include personal injury, auto accidents, slip and fall, and negligent security, plus on-the-job injury, bankruptcy, family law, business and corporate law, wills and estates, and charter schools. Call today to see why Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman should be your one-stop law shop for all of your business and personal needs. Conveniently located in Decatur, within 5 miles of both 285 and I-20. Call and schedule an appointment right now. 404-289-2244. 404-289-2244. Or go online to jhclawyers.com. The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience.
Whether it's a serious fall, fire danger, or other type of home emergency, Life Alert is there for you. The company with its slogan, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up," protects its members. Here are some of them.
When you have a heart attack like I did, and there's no one there, Life Alert was there for me.
Having a secure feeling through Life Alert is ideal.
My independence is possible because of it.
Now, Life Alert can also protect you in a fire emergency with a system that automatically notifies our monitoring center.
Thanks to Life Alert, you can live alone without ever being alone.
With Life Alert protection, elderly people can avoid or delay going into a nursing facility. For a free brochure about Life Alert service, call now 1-877-522-2215. That's 1-877-522-2215. Call Life Alert now for your free brochure at 1-877-522-2215.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-430-6722. 800-430-6722. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-430-6722. 800-430-6722.
All right, listeners, and we're back. Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's Inspirational Talk Radio. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie, along with our other host, Robert Patillo. This is Present Politics. Check us out online also at love860.com, or you can check out our website at presentpolitics.com. Listeners, before the break, I told you guys that I wanted to have a very special guest on the air today. I think it's important that when God gives you a platform, that you utilize that platform to help other people. And Robert, I'm sure you agree with that.
Absolutely.
All right. And who we have here today is Diane Adoma. And Diane is the Chief Operating Officer of the Affordable Housing Community Development Corporation. She's also a member of the Georgia Federation of Democratic Women. And I think the chapter that you're a member of is headed by a good friend of mine, Elaine, correct?
Yes, it is.
And one thing that I want to do, and listen, it's no secret that I'm a Democrat. Robert is still trying to figure out what he is. We have no idea. Week to week, he kind of changes. He fluctuates. So I don't know which Robert I'm going to get in the studio. But I want to talk about what's happening right now with the housing situation, especially dealing with our senior citizens. It's very important to me. I know this is kind of your heart, your life's work. So give us some details about what you do and how this operation of affordable housing has affected your life, and how does it affect others?
Well, thank you so much, Rashad, for having me on the show today. And you're absolutely right. I'm very passionate about senior housing. And that's because if each one of us live long enough, we're all going to be impacted by quality, affordable housing if we live long enough. So it's very important for us to consider what's going to happen to that population. And Rashad, I want to let you know that right now, and I want to talk a little bit about Rockdale County's situation specifically. They have about 22.7% of the population are baby boomers right now.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And when you look at the year 2030, Rashad, we're looking at a growing population of baby boomers being 245% if they continue to grow like they're growing now. Now, one of the concerns with that is that the baby boomers, they're taking better care of themselves. They're eating better. They're exercising, and they're getting into healthy living. And so because of this lifestyle, and of course, we don't want to leave out better access to health care. And that, of course, is helping them to live longer. Also, although we're very happy about that, we have to plan for that. If that population is going to grow in leaps and bounds like that by 2030, we have to accommodate that population and provide for them. Now, there's a lot of talk about taking care of our young people, and I certainly know, being a mother myself and a grandmother, that it is important.
Wait a minute, you're a grandmother?
Yes, I am. Now, let's not go there today, Rashad.
But listen, I mean, you look very young.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be nice, Robert.
Behave.
All right, go ahead. That shocked me, but you're a beautiful woman and you look very young.
Thank you very much, Rashad. And so it's very important for us to take care of all of our populations, not just the youth, because any healthy environment or healthy community, they have to take care of all those different populations from the time a baby is born until the time someone passes away or grow old gracefully. We have to provide for all of them. And And what I'm seeing is oftentimes we have lots of great programs for the youth, although there's an argument to be made there because we still are not there yet. But we also have to stop and think about what we're doing with the seniors, who I consider being the foundation and the infrastructure of our communities, the wisdom that comes from them. I think it's so important to take time out to look out for them.
How does an individual connecting to you, connecting to the services that you offer, if they find themselves in a situation where they're not able to really afford housing and they're kind of living week to week on a very fixed budget, how does one go about contacting you, and how does that program work?
Good question. Thank you so much for asking that. The mission of Affordable Housing Community Development Corporation is to provide upscale affordable housing to seniors, but that also includes our veterans who make the ultimate sacrifice to protect us. And it also includes families. You know, we have lots of families today, Rashad, that are without quality housing. And let me give just a recent example. We got a call the other day from one of the local nonprofits, and there was a young lady who had absolutely nowhere to go. So we called the shelters. All the shelters within a 50-mile radius were full. There was nowhere to put that person. And so that just confirms the growing need for us to get out. We have to get out and advocate. We have to talk to our community leaders. We have to talk to the individuals who can make a difference. Even more important, Rashad, the people who can really make a difference is each one of us. Every time we go to the poll, it's important for us to remember that we want people who are going to be sensitive to these problems and who are going to take some giant steps to help correct some of these problems that we have with the seniors and the young people.
Usually, and we're talking about going to the ballot, usually this issue is something that is taken up by the local city council or to a local county, correct?
That's correct.
What are some of the qualities in an elected official? What are some of the things, keywords that they need to say in order to let someone like you know that they're on the right side of this issue?
Well, before they can say anything, they have to be passionate about this issue, and they have to understand it. And then at that time, one of the things that we're going to be doing that they can support us with is we're going to be hosting what we call informational, educational forums. And the purpose of this is just to provide our community leaders with the information. We have an obligation as citizens and as voters to provide our leaders with information so that they can make a good decision. Especially when we send them to Washington or when we send them, to represent us, then they need to know exactly what it is that we need from them. So it's kind of a dual relationship. We don't want to put it all on them because we have the responsibility to make them aware of what these problems are.
Do you guys have private funding?
We have private funding. Actually, we're launching a huge fundraiser over the next month. We'll be rolling that out with our community leaders. We're trying to raise $3 million to build multiple housing, not just for seniors, but like I said, also for families. And the good news is recently we had an individual who owns a lot of land, and what they're trying to do now is partner with our organization, and so that we can form a subsidiary to be able to actually launch our first project. We're hoping by January, and then by late summer of 2014, we're hoping to be in a position to apply for low-income housing tax credits, which benefits the community because it brings in tax dollars to our ailing communities who badly need it.
You guys that's an ambitious goal. $3 million. What's the time frame that you're looking at to raise that kind of capital?
We're looking at a total of 3 years.
Okay.
With the land that we're currently negotiating contracts as I sat here and talked to you. So your timing is perfect.
Okay.
Thank you again.
But
we have 3 contracts now that are being negotiated with lawyers, and you know how it is when you get contracts.
Robert's a lawyer.
Okay, Robert, talk to me over there. Tell me, so these lawyers now, every time we put something in the contract, we send it back. And so the bottom line is we're going back and forth, but that's a good thing. That's a good sign that each party, is trying to negotiate in good faith.
That's powerful. What made you get so passionately involved in something like this?
Good question. First of all, I lost my mother in July.
Sorry to hear that.
She never had that opportunity to live in her own house with her own dignity. She always had to live with us for most of her entire life. She was in her 90s, and she never saw that dream materialize. And I've always had a lot of respect for, I like to call them seniors, I don't like to call them, old age people or old people. But you learn a lot from them if you just sit down. And I think we have to go back to the basics of respecting our seniors, because they are the foundation and they are the infrastructure of our communities. These young people need the seniors to help guide them. And if we don't look out for them, we're losing a very strong, a very important infrastructure, something that our forefathers stood for and they continue to stand for. So we have to keep advocating that we take care of all of our populations.
Do you guys get involved in organizing individuals for example, I do something yearly with a few of the senior high risers in Atlanta. And not only do we make sure that everyone's registered, we also make sure that they get to the polls. There are some rules that affect what I can say and not say to the group as a whole, but basically just making sure that they have access. And that they are registered. Do you guys do or plan to do anything similar to that for some of the individuals you deal with?
Absolutely. Okay. Actually, we're going to be rolling out a transportation plan to go out and get these people. These voters, the senior voters, they're very committed. And if you just go get them, even if it's snowing outside in Georgia, which is, unusual, but it does, to go out and get the seniors show up. And so we have to be there to go out and get them, hold their hands, take them to the polls. And one of the things we're trying to do now is get buses and sign people up to volunteer to come out and help get these seniors to the poll. They do have a voice, they do make a difference, and they are a very important part of the fabric in our communities.
Tell the listeners, first of all, I want two pieces of information to go out. One, anybody who's listening, and you please get in touch with her, Diane, through her organization. Please get in touch with her, Diane. Tell her organization. Please get in touch with her, Diane. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you if they need assistance.
Absolutely. If you need assistance, first of all, you can call us at 678-374-9174. That number again is 678-374-9174. Or you can feel free to go to our website at www.affordablehousingcdc.com if you'd like to get additional information or if you'd like to donate to the cause.
Wonderful. And listen, I encourage you guys, listeners, please volunteer with Diane. I think what she's doing is great. Diane, Robert, and I, we would do anything we can to help with your organization and to promote it. Let us know when you get some of that fundraising kicked off, and we'll make sure we send some contributors your way as well.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
We thank you so much.
And thank you.
Diane Adoma from the Affordable Housing Community Development Corporation. She is their Chief Operating Officer. Diane, thank you for being with us on Present Politics.
And thank you, Rashad. And thank you too, Robert.
Thank you.
What side are you on today? I had to get that in there.
Yes, all right. Okay. We'll be right back, guys. You're listening to Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio.
The lawyers of Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman offer the quality, experience, and expertise of a big firm, but with the personalized, client-centered approach to legal services that only a smaller firm can offer. Practice areas include personal injury, auto accidents, slip and fall, and negligent security, plus on-the-job injury, bankruptcy, family law, business and corporate law, wills and estates, and charter schools. Call today to see why Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman should be your one-stop law shop for all of your business and personal needs. Conveniently located in Decatur, within 5 miles of both 285 and I-20. Call and schedule an appointment right now. 404-289-2244. 404-289-2244. Or go online to jhclawyers.com. The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience.
Tune your radio.
Tune in now.
You can tune in to this radio station on any smartphone or tablet.
iPhone,
Android,
BlackBerry,
Nokia,
Samsung,
Windows phones,
or whatever you have. Download the free TuneIn app from your phone or tablet's app store.
Tune in with music, sports, news, and comedy.
From over 70,000 radio stations around the world, including this Beasley Broadcast Group station. Check it out at tunein.com
or your app store.
860 AM WAEC Atlanta.
The opinions expressed during the sponsored programs on this station are strictly those of the program hosts, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of Beasley Broadcast Group, this station, its staff, other advertisers, or agencies.
Middle Georgia Productions and ATL Radio presents Rimshot Urban Musical, nominated ATL's Hottest Stage Play 2013. Rimshot Urban Musical integrates the works of a dynamic group of positive and innovative musicians, artists, scribes, and dancers while conveying an engaging, educational, and stimulating message. How far would you be willing to go for fame? Fortune. Things aren't always what they highly anticipated Rimshot Anniversary Celebration is on November 23rd at 7 o'clock at the Rockdale County Auditorium in Conyers, Georgia. To secure your tickets today, visit www.rimshoturbanmusical.com. Follow the movement on Facebook at Rimshot Urban Musical or call us at 678-306-3616. Rimshot Urban Musical, performing arts for social change.
This is Present Politics, hosted by leading political strategist Rashad Ritchie and civil rights attorney Robert Patillo. Listen as they interview trendsetters and newsmakers, both local and national. This is our time to talk about political issues that matter to us. Guaranteed to be controversial and always informative. Join us every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. only on Love 860 WAEC, Atlanta's inspirational talk radio. You can also listen online at presentpolitics.com.
Welcome back to Present Politics on Love 860 WAEC. Call-in number is 443-558-699. We need you to call in, join the conversation, join us on social networking. Go to presentpolitics.com, Twitter, that's at Present Politics.
We're on Twitter, Robert?
We are on Twitter.
I know none of this.
I'm on the Twitter page right now.
When was I going to get the memo, Robert, that we were on Twitter?
We are at Present Politics. Facebook is / Present Politics. You can find us on all the social media sites. Get involved, join the conversation. I did want to give a special shout out to one of my good friends and the beautiful wife of one of my great friends from law school, Lakeisha Steele, for being involved in the conversation. Lakeisha chimes in saying she's tuning in and agrees with the Affordable Care Act. Just because it's derived from Romney's policy does not mean that it's not a good piece of legislation for this country.
Preach it, Reverend. She must be an ordained minister. She's telling so much truth over there.
Thank you, Keisha, and make sure you're taking care of my boy Derek up there in the Metro DC area.
Don't know you, Keisha, but I like you already.
Look, so now as we come back, we have one of the best criminal defense attorneys at the table, and we have him talking Air Force and talking politics. Let's get into law. Let's get into something that Attorney Daniels from Daniels De La Cruz can share his expertise in. Now, as many of you know, this is something that has become viral. It's a viral video that's now getting national attention and also has led to some prosecutions. This SUV who had an encounter with a biker gang in New York. So for those of you who haven't seen it, you can pretty much just Google New York SUV motorcycles or bikers. And so the group of bikers pretty much surrounded this SUV and started harassing him and his family. So the SUV ran up on them. It's just a long encounter that got to the point that one of the bikers hopped off his bike, went over and tried to grab open the guy's door. So then he takes off, they chase him some more, and eventually they box the SUV in, and I guess the SUV driver just snapped and ran over one of the bikers. And one of the bikers is paralyzed, I believe, another one's injured. After that, the bikers circled again. They took their helmets, bashed in his window.
They took him out the car and beat him, which I don't know if they showed that on the clip or not. But the reports were they did drag him out of the car and beat him senseless.
Exactly. So this is where I wanted to turn to Attorney Daniels. So now there have been 2 arrests in this case so far. 2 of the bikers have been arrested. But what exactly are the laws surrounding something like this? What should you do as a driver if you find yourself in a confrontation like this?
Well, the first thing you need to look at the video as a whole. I know you mentioned that you said one of the bikers went over to the SUV and tried to open the SUV driver's door. I watched this video this morning several times. And I could be mistaken, but I didn't see that. To my understanding, looking at this video, a biker gang riding on some type of side street in New York. I don't think it was an interstate, some type of side street, and 50 more guys. SUV come up, they're surrounding it. One of the bikers in front of them stops, slows down. Now, if you look at the video, it seemed like the driver, the biker, is more towards the left. So he's not in direct path of the SUV. SUV hits him, okay? Now in the state of Georgia, if you get in an accident, you hit somebody, you stop. Been an accident. Due to the fact that there was a lot of bikers, a lot of individuals, the individuals stayed in the car. Now, going back to the video, and you mentioned about one of the bikers coming, pulling the door open, I didn't see that. But what I did see, I saw a driver, SUV driver, slam on his gas, and drove over 2 individuals. One individual is paralyzed. Actually, I saw pictures this morning on the web, and he is, don't know he's going to make it. I'm praying for him and his family. But when you look at the video in its totality, you get a slight accident. Everybody stops. They're a biker group. They're a gang. Not saying they had bad intentions or no intentions at all. They stopped. At that time, if you was afraid, your window was up, your door was locked, you call 911. You call 911 and you wait. It was other individuals on the other side of the street who had stopped already. And majority of the times, not all the times, when you call 911, hey, law enforcement is on the way. They coming, Rashad. They're on their way. All right?
Don't tell me that, Doc. I'm going to have to get out of the studio.
I'm sorry. I got you back, man. I'm here. Don't worry, I got you. They're on the way. And, a different alternative could have been taken in that situation instead of putting on the gas and basically using that vehicle as a weapon. So you tell me if I'm driving my vehicle and I have an accident, I hit somebody and the person get upset, irate, not saying this happened here, then I have a right to pull out my gun and shoot him.
No, you don't. But let me say this, Harry. Let's go back to the prerequisite before all of this happened. This is where I believe the prosecution, they're going to have to do their due diligence, okay? Correct. Before he hit anybody. This was not an accident. It was intentional. He ran over them. He was trying to get away. Now, the argument can be made that the biker who stopped in front of him, there was an altercation.
He didn't stop. He slowed down. He didn't stop.
All right, Mr. Lawyer. All right. So he slows down in front of him. If there was already an altercation, words exchanged, and this biker took that sort of action, that to me would be considered an aggressive action. I got my children in the car, okay? I'm not going to take the chance of you trying to stop my vehicle, and I already see that you have a posse with you. Your crew is very visible to me, all right? So I'm going to get out of there. Now, hopefully I would have had that thing on me that day and not have to have ran over anybody, okay? So, and I do have a sensitivity to the fact that there's an injured individual in this. But think about this. This is a dad with his family in the vehicle. All right? He leaves the scene. Okay? He's trying to get away from danger. And I believe that it was justified because when he came in front of more traffic, the bikers stopped, they followed him, chased him down the street, took their helmet, bashed in his window, pulled them out.
Hold on a second, Rashad. Now, one thing we use in court of law, and I think Robert understands this, we object when say facts, not in the evidence. When you're making an argument about something
was not in the evidence.
One, he's talking about they had a prior altercation.
And that's why I said the prosecution has to do their due diligence to figure out why did he leave, why did he run over these guys?
So we're looking at the video, as I mentioned before. We only talk about the video. And to my understanding, the reports are coming out now. The bike who actually slowed down. If you watch the video closely, he turns over his left shoulder.
I saw that. Yeah.
Away from the driver. Turns over his left shoulder, and reports are coming in now that he was actually trying to single the SUV driver to come around. Okay. Now, the SUV driver hit him on accident. I understand it. Accident, he hit him. But when you hit somebody, you stop. You pull over, you stop. In this situation, his crew, the motorcycles together, they all stop. Mm-hmm. Okay? They all stop. Now, we know a lot. It's very dangerous for motorcycles, drivers, people riding motorcycles. They're not protected like people in cars. They're open on this machine. You get a hit, one bump, that can be it. So he hit him, they stop. Yeah. Now, watching the video, I go back watching the video, I didn't see any, and I watched numerous of videos. I represent people on murder cases. I watched numerous of videos when people saying, well, there you go, it was justified. Something should have happened. In my opinion, I didn't see anything that warrant that driver to press that gas and run over those drivers.
Do you think both should have been arrested then, the driver as well as?
Both of them should have been arrested. Okay. One, when you talk,
that may be a fair analysis, Harry.
When you look at the SUV driver getting pulled out of his car, the window smashed in. Now you got why are they doing this? They didn't do that initially. Now if they smashed the window in, try to pull him out of his car at the beginning, we talk about a different thing. We're talking about force against force. But at the end, they came, smashed the window, tried to pull him out of the car. Why? He just ran over his friend. Just ran him over like he was an animal, like he was a dog.
But Harry, now you know this. There's no justification for any type of retaliation to that degree. You know that.
I know that all very well.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to go to a caller. Stacy is on the line from Atlanta. Stacy, are you on air?
I am. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Stacy. Thanks for calling.
How you doing, Stacy?
No problem. I'm good, thanks. So I just wanted to call in and being in New York and having been in somewhat of a similar situation in the past and knowing the area that this all happened, I just wanted to call in and give my opinion. And I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate running over anyone, but nor do I advocate bullying. And in this particular case, just to be fair, this wasn't a gang. This was a motorcycle club, right? Mm-hmm. I know that it's a hard way to differentiate between.
Yeah, it was like a weekend riding club, right?
It's a club. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of them in New York, as we do down here in Georgia. But nice day in Manhattan, clubs come out. One thing that I think people are forgetting is this is a man, his wife. I'm not sure if there were kids in the car, but it's a family in the car. Now, I've been in a situation where it's been a nice day in Manhattan, and it's been in Washington Heights, which is where this happened, right? And these bikers oftentimes are so happy to be out, let's say, giving them the benefit of the doubt, happy to be, on their bikes and together, that they're not paying attention to the fact that they still have to follow traffic rules. So I've been surrounded by motorcycle clubs before, and I felt intimidated. I felt unsafe. So maybe no one's really thinking about this. Maybe in this situation with his wife in the car, he didn't feel safe. If you look at, there's two sets of videos, and Attorney Daniels, I don't know if you've seen them. This incident actually started on the West Side Highway in Manhattan, right?
Is that a rough side of town, Stacey, since you're familiar?
No, it's not. Maybe back in the day it was, but
okay.
This is Washington Heights,
okay.
What we call Uptown, which leads, if you go further down, it leads into still Uptown, but it leads into Harlem. It's been it's a new day in Harlem now.
Sure,
it's
right,
not
absolutely.
like, back in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
But it's not that it's a rough part of town. It's the intimidation factor of 20, 30 guys on motorcycles surrounding your car on a highway. Because if you look at the original video, this started on a highway. They surrounded him on the highway because what they wanted to do, which I've seen it before, is they wanted to stop the car, stop traffic, so they could do their stunts. They wanted to do their racing, they wanted to do their stunts. So, in probably not knowing what was going on, and if you look at the initial video, the driver of the SUV was trying to get away from them. But because they wanted to have the road to themselves, and this is a very common thing on the West Side Highway. Back in the day, it used to be, not drag racing, that sounds like the 50s or 60s, but it used to be a great road for racing. In fact, the road has been famous for being in video games for racing, right? Mm-hmm. So they wanted the highway to themselves. This incident then, took place where it started on the highway and then it moved on to the local streets, still in Uptown, still in Harlem, still in Washington Heights. And that's where it really, got out of control because the guy probably felt trapped. I've been there. I've felt it. Not saying it was okay to run over him, but what do you do? What would you guys do if you're in the car with your wife, your fiance, your family, and this happened to you? What would you have done?
Let me answer you this. Let me answer you this question, Stacey. We're talking about motorcycles. A lot of people in motorcycle gangs or clubs get a bad rep. You know, we got people like Hell's Angels. They ride around on motorcycles. These are the bad guys.
Absolutely.
Okay. What if we got a group of people on bicycles? Okay, they want to do their stunts or ride around their bicycles, or some kids on some skateboards. They have a skateboard club as well. So it's a situation. You take them off motorcycles, you put them on skateboards, you put them on bicycles, and then this guy, I feel intimidated, I feel scared. You know?
I think, Harry, the threat's the same. I think he was intimidated and acted probably appropriately because of the number of individuals that seemed to have to be aggressive, and he wasn't completely sure on what was going on.
Look at how you guys labeled this group as a gang. How did he not know this wasn't a gang, a motorcycle gang, and they weren't trying to rob him? How did he know that? Because it happens. Right. It happens. So, and to take it further, Attorney Daniels, I'm not sure if you saw the full video, because they do pull him out of his car, and they do attack him, and they do slash his face. Not the folks that were,
and where I'm from, Harry, those are gangsters, Harry. That's a gangster type move.
They pull him out of his car, and whatever they do to him, whatever assault and battery they commit on him, this is after he runs over the comrades. Okay, this is not at the same time. He drives off, as you see, he drives off and drives over. They chase him down, then they pull him out of his car in anger and retaliation. But one thing I'll mind you, Stacey, in the state of Georgia, if it's a barrier, if you can call police. I was on the phone to police at the time. You don't have any report. Well, I was on the phone to police at the time. I was calling police. What should I do? What should I do? Have these people surrounding me? There was no effort to call law enforcement. Those people are sworn to protect us. In society, you cannot take it in your own hand, especially
in immediate danger. You can, Harry. We always have allowances in the law for that.
Question. That's the question. Was it immediate danger?
Not advocating it, and I understand that in the perfect world you should have called the cops, but none of us know. And me, like I said, and having been in a situation somewhat similar, it wasn't this extreme. Mm-hmm. I know that feeling of fear.
What if they put a gun? What if they put a gun out, Stacey?
I hope I would have had my drama stopper too.
Was he immediate danger then?
We don't know that they wouldn't have. We don't know that because literally, if you look at some of these pictures, and this is after the fact, you're correct. There are people standing around the man that they pull out of the SUV trying to protect him because who knows if they could have pulled out a gun or not. Not advocating running over him.
Hey, I just wanted to chime in. We posted the link to the video on our Facebook wall. That's facebook.com/present politics. And if you go to the 4-minute and 45-second mark, this is before he ran over the guy. It shows the biker stopping in traffic, and one of them hops off his bike, runs over, and pulls the dude's door open. And that's when he speeds off. So this is before he ran over the dude. Someone had ran up and tried to pull the door open, pull him out of it, physically opened the door. Mm-hmm. Now, please believe, now I want people to understand this for future reference. If we are in traffic and you run over and open the door with me in the car, there are going to be some severe problems and repercussions that are going to take place. I'm going to need Attorney Daniels and a few other people because it is not going to be a nice situation.
I mean, at that point, you're in survival mode. And yes, maybe he should have called the police. Maybe they should have prayed. Maybe they should have just, I don't know, like I Dream of Jeannie, wiggled their nose and disappeared, but that didn't happen.
So you're telling me, and I haven't seen this video, it's a video before.
Yes.
Before
we posted it on our Facebook wall.
Before he ran over the guy.
And Harry, I think you guys call that evidence. What is it called, Robert? The lawyer evidence in fact or something? What you guys call that?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a court.
Yeah, I'm at work.
But I'll tell you this: if that in fact took place, in which if it's in the video and provides evidence that it did, why you didn't call the police then?
What?
Why do you call the police? Why you don't call the police then?
Are you serious, Harry?
You call the police. Call the police then.
Harry, somebody's running up, opening your door. They obviously have about 20 other folks that are gonna probably act just as crazy as this one guy's acting. They're stopping traffic. My family's in the vehicle, and you want me to get on my cell phone and call the police?
Well, hold on a second, Rashad. When did that take place?
When did it take place?
When did the first incident took place?
I'm looking at the video now, and it looks like the SUV got surrounded by them. The video is about 6 minutes long, and then they chased him. And then when they finally got into traffic, I guess they had been careening back and forth with him. So when they got into traffic, somebody decided to jump off their bike and try to open the door with him in it. Then he sped off through the rest of the bikes. The thing that I've noticed is this is the thing that I do not understand, and I see it in Atlanta also, that for some reason when you take a dude who works at UPS or a dude who's an accountant and put him on a motorcycle on a Saturday afternoon, he for some reason now thinks that he is, a member of like some gang or something, thinks that he's just extra bad, extra hard.
It's pack behavior. You know how that goes psychologically, right?
Yeah,
I think when you purchase a motorcycle, it comes along with an additional batch of testosterone or something like that.
Yeah, it's just an additional just jolt of testosterone where you just think you can take on the world. So, you're in this group of 30 people. You're like, come on, let's go mess with this dude. And then dude just went off. It happens.
It's that pack mentality.
Exactly. It's that pack mentality. But I wanted to transition our conversation germanely from this the incident in New York into some of the self-defense laws here in Georgia, because we do want to educate people. Now, Harry, you have a lot of experience in this field. What would have happened if this took place in Georgia with the stand your ground laws that we have on the books?
Well, it depends.
Sorry to interrupt real quick. I'm just going to hang up and listen to y'all. Great show. I really enjoy each Saturday.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thanks for calling in.
Thanks for listening.
It depends. It depends who's on your jury. That's the first question you asked.
And where you at?
Who's on your jury and where you at in Georgia? I represented an individual about, maybe 2-3 months ago in Carrollton, Georgia, and we're not even talking about somebody getting outside a car. We're talking about the individual who's now deceased, the alleged victim in the case, threatened other individuals inside a nightclub establishment, was told that he was going to get his gun to do harm. In fact, when they went to go get that gun, several individuals tried to stop him from coming back into the club. Mm-hmm. And just prior to the shooting, he was seen by one of his friends staring and looking at his target. Okay? The individual I represented was Mr. Herman Lee Smith, who's currently serving a life sentence plus 10 because he was convicted on felony murder and found not guilty of malice murder. Now, I'll explain to you what's the difference of those in a second. But when we talk about self-defense, when does a person have a right to defend himself? Now, the situation what I just described, not a situation, the facts that I just told you were undisputed facts by the state of Georgia. The prosecution did not dispute these facts, okay? They did not dispute the facts. In fact, law enforcement, investigators said the individuals was coming in to shoot and kill the boy who was messing with his baby mama. Now Herman Smith was not the boy who was messing with his baby mama, okay? Herman Smith was standing beside the boy who was messing with his baby mama. Mm-hmm. Herman Smith didn't know the boy messing with the deceased baby mother, nor did he know the deceased. Only thing he knew that it was a crowded nightclub, 1 o'clock in the morning. An individual had a gun out looking in his direction, coming towards him and pulling that gun up. And he did what everybody else would do. I think you call it what do you call it, Rashad?
I call it the drama stopper.
He pulled his gun out to stop the drama, and one protecting his life, the boy who he didn't know life, and others' life. Now, he shot once. Individual came back around with the gun. He shot him 2 more times. Okay, when I say Herman shot him 2 more times to prevent his attack. Okay, to prevent his attack. Your standard self-defense. Now, I just told you Herman was serving life plus 10.
Right.
All right. Jury found him guilty. The jury asked the question to the judge. If he had reasonable fear, okay, New York SUV driver, if you had reasonable fear, could we find him guilty of felony murder? The answer is what?
I don't know.
That's the question. That's the question.
Did the judge know?
The question. The answer is no.
It has a bit.
No. It's in the state of Georgia, reasonable fear.
Okay.
Then the jury is authorized to find you not guilty. The jury believed he had reasonable fear in him. Anybody would have reasonable fear when somebody got a gun coming towards you.
Sure.
Anybody. Okay? The jury they found him not guilty of malice murder because they believed that he didn't have the intent or the ill will to do harm. But they found him guilty for aggravated assault. State of Georgia, aggravated assault is the difference between malice murder and aggravated assault is one thing. Take a guess. Murder, aggravated assault.
Right.
What happens? The person does what?
One dies.
They dies.
Right.
So if you can't find him guilty of malice murder, you can't find him guilty of aggravated assault. But like I said, it depends where you at. Depends where you located at. Depends who you are. When I say who you are, it depends on sometimes what's the color of your skin. Right. We have another case in Coweta County, right beside Carroll County, just south of the airport, Newnan, Georgia. Nightclub situation. Individual comes to a nightclub. And I see an individual, a white gentleman comes to the nightclub. Okay, he sees this white girl at the bar, Rashad. Sees her at the bar, nice looking girl. He walks over and starts talking to him. Unbeknown to him, The black gentleman standing beside him was the girl's boyfriend.
Okay.
He did what any reason person. Hey, man, this is my girlfriend. They have an altercation, back and forth. Okay, this is the first night. Second night, they at the same place again, the Corner Tavern in Noonan, Georgia. Same place again. Other individual, all right, white gentleman, Adam Edmondson. I call him by his name. Okay, everybody, I call him by his name. He comes into a bar again. He comes to that bar again. Sees the same girl again. Same girl. Guess what he do, Rashad? What do you think he do, Rashad?
He tried to holler at her again?
He tried to talk to her again.
Okay.
He tried to talk to her again. And the boyfriend did what a reasonable boyfriend would do, somebody you in a relationship with. Hey, man, I just told you.
We just talked about this
talked about this last night. Did we not just get into this discussion last night? I thought we handled this.
Right.
But once again, he's at it again. Okay? Gentleman comes in, black guy comes in, the boyfriend comes in, and hits him, mushes him in the face. They get into a little altercation. They breaks it up. Friend, it's something. Now, when I say broke it up, this is on camera. Robert, is it not on camera?
I've seen the video. It's
I've
on
seen
camera.
they broke it up.
Okay.
Stop the fight.
Security, what, patrons?
Threat is not there. Threat is gone.
Okay.
No threat. Individual, Adam Edmondson, pulls out a gun, puts it to his chest, shoots him, kills him. He's probably listening to us talking on his radio station right now at the comfort in his room at home.
Wow.
You tell me.
Now, what were the surrounding factors that made that any different? Now, what did the prosecution say? What did the judge say? Did it go to trial?
It went to trial.
Okay.
It went to trial, and the jury was out for a while on the case. And what the jury was trying to decipher, well, did he have reasonable fear to justify his action? If he had reasonable fear, then we must find him not guilty. But the question in Rashad in the state of Georgia, you cannot cause the controversy, the action. You cannot be the first aggressor, then claim self-defense.
Right.
Okay?
Because it's mutual combat at that point.
I can't punch you. Herman Smith case back. Okay, it don't work like that. In my case, Herman Smith case back in Carrollton, you look at it. You distinguish those two cases. One guy, the deceased in the Herman Smith case, he don't have a weapon, no gun.
Right.
I'm sorry. The deceased in the Herman Smith case has a gun. Okay, he threatened the individual in the club the same night, say he was coming to shoot and kill him. Law enforcement says he in fact did that. He goes get that gun. Several people trying to stop him. Several people. In fact, one of the girls he was talking to that night said, I tried to stop him.
And did they all testify to these facts?
What kind of turnout would be if they didn't all testify, Rashad? Every last one of them testified. Categorically. His friends testified for the defense. Now, you got to be pretty, you got to have a very clear approach as a defense attorney to cause the friends of the deceased to testify. But there's only one thing I need you to do. Is to tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
And
right.
they told the truth. Matter of fact, my last witness for the defense, I asked her, why no? Why do you come in here? Why are you now saying this story? Why you didn't tell law enforcement this 6 months ago? Why are you telling this story now? You know what she said? She simply looked at that jury and said it was time for somebody to tell the truth.
Wow.
They still convicted.
And you know, this brings the 2 points together. That if we look at the Herman Smith case, we look at the Johnson case down in Coweta County. If you look at the New York SUV driver case, the problem with the self-defense laws, is specifically in Georgia, but in other stand your ground states also, is that it's so vague and ambiguous. You have no idea what you can do and what you can't do. You don't know if the person needs to have a gun. Do they need to say something? According to the law, as it's written right now in Georgia, if I just sit here and look at you and in my mind form the opinion that you're about to cause some harm to me, you don't have to say anything, do anything, look at me a certain way. There needs to be no background, no weapon. All I have to do is look at you and think, he about to do something.
And you can justifiably do something. Now, that's the letter.
That is the letter of the law. The problem is that it's not applied that way. The way the law is currently applied is that an African American is very difficult for them to claim stand your ground as a defense. Simply because, one, it's hard to find officers who, when they get to the scene and there's a dead body sitting there and a black man sitting there with a gun, and you say self-defense, you're probably going to jail that night. There's probably about a 99.9% chance you're going to jail that night. Then even after that point, the prosecuting attorney, there's a pretty good chance they're going to prosecute. They're not going to say, well, this clearly stands your ground case. You go home and go to sleep. Everyone remembers in the Zimmerman case when it initially happens, the initial action that we did was to march just to have an arrest. They didn't even want to arrest him because it stands your ground. But that's because of the nature of the law giving so much power and authority to the officers to arrest at the scene. If they believe that you were in danger, that you were in fear, then guess what? You don't even get arrested in the case. And then you pull it over to another layer, trying to impanel a jury that understands this complexity of the law, because stand your ground isn't one law. In Georgia, it's about 4 or 5 different statutory sections knitted together and then linked to and hyperlinked. And by the time you explain the jury instruction to the jury, it's hard for them to understand exactly what needs to happen. And then you also have to think about local prejudices and ongoing stereotypes about African American males and their propensity to of violence and the other social issues which come together on it, which makes the law all but a license to shoot and kill African American males. Does not provide the same amount of protection to black men as it does white men. It does not provide the same amount of protection based on age, based on race, based on national origin, based on gender, based on sexual orientation. There's completely different levels of protections for individuals depending on who they are. And this is what our Constitution forbids. There cannot be, well, a white man could shoot a black man on Tuesday morning at 3 o'clock as long as it's between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. or something like that. You can't have laws like that. But that's what the law comes out to. You're not going to see a situation where, such as in the case of Herman Smith and Coweta, where there's a 20-year-old blonde girl who looks like Miley Cyrus laying on the floor dead, and then the person who shot her is a 35-year-old black man, and he claims self-defense. It's just not going to happen because that's the way the law is written.
Rashad, in the Coweta Judicial Circuit, it's a I don't know, I haven't checked and see, but I know it's an individual who was arrested, Marine. She was a reservist in the Marine Corps. Okay. She was arrested in Carroll County. She spent several months in jail, and she stabbed the individual. She stabbed and she stayed there and placed her hand over the individual's wound to try to prevent the blood loss. Okay. She told law enforcement it was him and her. Mm-hmm. She told law enforcement that he was he was trying to rape me.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
He was trying to rape me. I stabbed him with a little small preparing knife, one of those small blades. Mm-hmm. And she so happened she stabbed in the right place. Mm-hmm. Stopped him. He bled out. He was trying to rape me. Okay. Law enforcement at the preliminary hearing said that her pubic hair was found in his hand. She spent 7 months in jail. 7 months in jail. So when you're talking about stand your ground, you put the victim in jail.
And that seems to be pretty straightforward. The evidence is there. She didn't seem malicious because she's tried to save this guy. Why is it? So she was arrested on scene.
The old law, last man standing. Okay. Nobody's around. The question if a tree falls in the woods doesn't make a sound. Right, depends. Right. All right? Nobody's around. Okay. 2 people. He tried to kill me. I was defending myself. I had to shoot him. I've been in law enforcement. I work as a criminal defense attorney. There's absent any other evidence, Robert can attest to this, any other evidence, there's no probable cause to make an arrest. Okay? No probable cause to make an arrest. Absent any other evidence. George Zimmerman, you had other evidence.
Right.
You had stay in the car. Don't get out.
Right.
I'm tired of these punks.
Right.
This and that.
Right.
So you got evidence. You have no other evidence. And it's no probable cause. But she spent 7 months in jail.
Amazing. Robert, you and I, we're going to start working on some of these cases around the state of Georgia especially.
And Attorney Daniels is also going to be working on them with us. We're going to...
Great. Excellent.
I think that the men in this room will bring down the stand your ground law in Georgia. And our listeners can take that to the bank. You're going to see it's going to be a huge action. We're going to fight this thing all the way down. We're about to head to break. You're listening to Present Politics on Love 860 WAEC AM.
The lawyers of Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman offer the quality, experience, and expertise of a big firm, but with the personalized, client-centered approach to legal services that only a smaller firm can offer. Practice areas include personal injury, auto accidents, slip and fall, and negligent security, plus on-the-job injury, bankruptcy, family law, business and corporate law, wills and estates, and charter schools. Call today to see why Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman are a one-stop law shop for all of your business and personal needs. Conveniently located in Decatur, within 5 miles of both 285 and I-20. Call and schedule an appointment right now. 404-289-2244. 404-289-2244. Or go online to jhclawyers.com. The hiring of an attorney is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertising. Ask for free written information about the firm's qualifications and experience.
Attention homeowners 62 and older. Do you want to live a better retirement with tax-free cash and no monthly mortgage payment? Well, now you can. Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. When you call the experts at One Reverse Mortgage, you'll find out how a reverse mortgage works and if it can help you. Just call One Reverse Mortgage to get your free guide and DVD. There's no obligation. Call now and you'll find out that you can turn the equity from your home into tax-free cash you can use for anything with no monthly mortgage payment, and you still own your home. Call One Reverse Mortgage, get your free guide and DVD, and start living the retirement you want today.
800-983-5022. 800-983-5022. 800-983-5022.
One Reverse Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, Licensed Mortgage Lender, National Mortgage Licensing System number 2052. Not available in all states. Client responsible for maintenance, taxes, and insurance.
I think Ford service is great, but I wondered what a customer thought, so I snuck up on one.
How are you?
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jackie.
Jackie, tell me why somebody should bring their car to the Ford dealership for service instead of any one of those other places out there.
They have wonderful service.
What do you drive, Jackie?
2007 Ford Escape.
How many miles you got on it?
About 62,000 at the most.
Okay, so how often do you find yourself here at the service center? Is it all about preventive maintenance at this point?
Yes, it is. I come and make sure I get my oil changed, and when they tell you your tires need to be rotated, you got to get that done as well.
Price is right?
Yes, price is right. No problem.
Let the experts help you get more life from your vehicle with the right battery at the right price. Right now, buy a high-performance Motorcraft Tested Tough Plus or Tested Tough Max battery and get a $25 mail-in rebate. Only at your Ford dealer.
So you take care of your car?
Yes, I do.
Because you love your car?
Yeah, because if you take care of it, it'll take care of you.
Rebate by check. See participating Ford dealer or visit FordOwner.com for rebate details through 3/31/13.
Welcome back and good afternoon. You're listening to Present Politics on Love 860 WAEC AM. We're entering into the last 20 minutes of the show. 2 hours fly by. We need you to call in 404-355-8699. You know, we're still here with Attorney Harry Daniels, one of the best and greatest criminal defense attorneys in the metro Atlanta area, partner at the Daniels De La Cruz law firm. Now, Harry, I'm going to give you some advertising. Here goes your plug and go.
Let's not forget about my partner, Vince De La Cruz, as an outstanding fine personal injury attorney, as well as criminal lawyer as well. We are located at 402 Addison Square, Suite 5B in Carrollton, Georgia, as well as we have an office in Midtown. So if you don't want to come to Carrollton, Peachtree Street, Northeast Suite 1, Peachtree Street, Northeast Suite 500. We can be found on the web at www.danielsdelacruz.com, danielsdelacruz.com. You know, our phone number is 678-664-8-LAW. That's 678-664-8529. Thanks, Rob.
All right, now, I did want to ask, so what are your primary practice areas when people call?
We do civil litigation, personal injury, criminal law, as well as immigration as well. I was just fortunate to have the opportunity to represent an individual in Carrollton last week. A young man was charged was accused of a crime in which he did not commit. He was exonerated of the crime, but he was illegal. He was brought to the country when he was 2 years old, no fault of his own, and was able to get him released out of Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. He was actually in the process of doing a deferred action program. So, you know, the accusation of being charged with a crime kind of threw a hook in that, but we was able to get that taken care of. He's well on his way to be a citizen. That's what Daniels De La Cruz provide. We try to help people just as we try to help people when you're in a situation when you think it's dim and there's no way to turn. You can call Dance De La Cruz. We'll take care of you.
And that it's great because so many people, when they think about law in Atlanta, they think they have to come all the way to downtown Atlanta to find a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Having an office in Carrollton, being acquainted with the local prosecutors, local judges, local court systems, it's always important to have a local attorney. I tell clients this all the time. When I travel around the metro Atlanta area, I have cases in Gainesville, Conyers, just all up and down the highways. People don't understand the amount of driving involved in doing law. But it's always better to have a relationship. It's great to be able to walk in and talk to the prosecutor that you've known before. It's great to be able to stand in front of judges who you've gone to bar association meetings with, who understand what you're doing. And that's why it's important, especially for the people in that area, to get a local attorney. And that's why Daniels De La Cruz having offices in Carrollton and also having an office here in Atlanta are just a great resource.
Robert, you're 100% right. I worked as a public defender. I represented thousands of individuals on criminal cases, and I have established relationships with the local district attorneys throughout the Coweta Judicial Circuits as well as the judge. And it's always a plus when you have been in front of this judge. You know how things go in a motion to suppress or any type of rulings or a trial. You know how this judge leans, and you know how these prosecutors think. When you come out of town, you get somebody, say, I'm going to the big city, get me a big city attorney. Don't get me wrong, some great attorneys up here. Robert Patella is one of them. He's being very humble over here. You come down there to the home court. Sometimes it's a lot of things you don't know. Not saying you don't know the law, but some of the things that you can get done and knowing these DAs is a plus. Solicitors, district attorneys, it's a plus anytime you practice law. It's so great having access to the guests that we have on this show.
That's right.
I think that's one of the major things when we started this radio endeavor, me and Rashad, this being able to bring some of these resources to the community, because everyone doesn't have the advertising budget to have one call that's all commercials going on every 4 to 5 seconds.
Right.
Standing on top of big rigs and everything else. But we want to make sure that the community knows about things like this. Now, Rashad, I know for the last couple segments of the show, you wanted to talk about some of our local politics.
Yeah, we got some issues in the city of Atlanta. Now, obviously, the mayor does have opposition, but I don't think it's credible. It gives him an opportunity to raise money. We also have, which I think is going to be, and Robert, I want to get your opinion on this. I think this race that I'm about to name, in my opinion, will be the most competitive race in all of this year's city elections in Atlanta. And that's Aaron Watson, who's post 2 at large city council member. So he encompasses the entire city of Atlanta. He was elected back in 2009. I actually worked on his campaign. I was his field director. And now he has been challenged by none other than Mary Norwood.
Big Mary coming back.
Mary's coming back. She's trying to stage a comeback. So you look at the woman that almost became mayor, very narrowly was defeated by our current mayor, Kasim Reed, is now running for city council again. And obviously this is going to be one of the most competitive races. So, listeners, I encourage you, if you're going to follow any election in the 2013 election cycle for the city of Atlanta, that is the election to follow.
Hey, it's interesting because Mary Norwood, she's a very old school politician. I'm not saying as in age, but just in technique.
She gets out, she shakes hands, she goes to events.
Yeah, she is not a social media candidate. Right. I think that young candidates or first-time candidates can absolutely learn from her, because she didn't run when she ran for mayor. She didn't start running for mayor a year before she ran for mayor. Mm-hmm. She started running for mayor 10 years.
That's right.
Before she ran for mayor. She was going to every old folks home, every community event, every fish fry, every cookout, every barbecue. She was showing at people's family reunions, so I didn't even know her. She made sure that she shook hands, kissed babies, not during campaign season, but year round for 10 years. So when we got to I worked on the 2009 mayor's race also. I worked on Jesse Spite's campaign for that race.
I remember Jesse.
And when we went to communities, we would try to explain our platform to them. They didn't want to hear it. because they knew Mary. Mary had been to their church 5, 6, 10 times. You know, and this is another tip for you aspiring politicians. Do not show up at a church the Sunday before Election Day. Stay for the first 15 minutes.
And walk out.
Stand up, wave at the crowd.
I hate when they do
hustle
that.
Out.
Anytime I bring an elected official with me to a church that I have a relationship with, I tell them, you will stay for this entire service. Period.
Yeah, nobody wants to see you walk in with your big bleach smile and your red dress or whatever you're wearing.
And you hit you, man, and walk out.
With your entourage, because they would take up a whole row.
Right.
And then they stay 15 minutes, then hustle out. And the whole church, you know, when you're a regular, back when I was a regular at Ebenezer, you know, I was second row, center seat, every Sunday, 8 a.m. service. Didn't miss a service. So when you come in here, and, you know, just make this big spectacle and hustle, I'm like, I know who I'm not voting for. Yeah, if you plan on hitting some churches, this is your free political advice. At the beginning of the campaign, you chart out which churches you want to go to by where you're going to be geographically. You make arrangements with the minister to let them know that you will be there. You try to meet with him that Wednesday because you don't want to meet with a minister Thursday or Friday. He's just not going to talk to you Saturday. You know, preachers, sometimes they act like writing a service is chopping cotton or something. Like they act like they're doing some real hard, weightlifting, some work. So you meet with him on that either the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and then that Sunday you come. He introduces you in the pulpit, not you sitting in the audience like you just showed up. You want them to bring you up to the pulpit. They might let you say a couple words, as long as it doesn't violate their 501c3. Okay, I can't endorse this person, but I do know someone that the Lord wants you to meet.
There you go.
That's what you want. Then you go to the 8 a.m. service there. You go to the 10 a.m. service at another church. Then you meet up with the Bible study of another church later on that week. You get 3 churches per week. Yeah, if you're doing a citywide race, you can hit most of the major churches in about 3 to 4 months.
You can hit them all.
Don't come showing up at 9:15 to the 8 o'clock service, walk in with 6 people, wave, and then walk back out.
But here's the thing, Robert, and even if an elected official or someone who's running for office, and Harry, we're going to get you to run for something.
You're right.
We may get you to run for judge. How about that? How would you think, Robert?
He'll make a great judge.
He'll make a good judge. What I've seen an elected official pull this off pretty successfully. They went to an early service. When they got up to speak, they were able to articulate that they may have to leave a little earlier because they have this church, that church, and the next church to go to, and that it was no disrespect at all because we all know sometimes politicians come in, they wave and they leave. I'm here to have a good time and to worship the Lord, and I just got a lot of worshiping to do today. So I think that was a great way to put it.
That works, but this what the entire thing is. With Mary Norwood, she has had 10 years to go to every one of those churches, stay the full service, and come to the minister's house, speak with him. She knows everyone, and she knows seniors and community activists, and those people are motivated to get out for her. She's not a drop-in candidate. She is a stay there.
Sure, and we're going to see what happens with Mary Norwood. Obviously, I'm good friends with Aaron Watson. I'm hoping and praying that he is reelected. I do believe he's the best man for a job. He's a remarkable city council member. He's not a flash and dazzle type guy, but honestly, that's actually what I like about him. Let me switch gears because I have to bring up, since I have one of the greatest attorneys, criminal attorneys in the building with us today, Harry, I want to get your opinion about Ms. Perry. We all remember what happened at the nation's capital. She's driving a car. She's a young African-American female. Obviously, she definitely had some sort of break with what we would perceive to be reality, and there were some mental health issues, according to her family, that were going on at that time. Gentlemen, she was killed. She was shot.
Yeah, Rashad, that's a very, very sad situation.
Very sad.
Very tragic. You know, her family comes on the news and speak on her behalf and talks about, I think, postpartum, I believe she had with the child, and some of the things that was going on with her. I think she was on medication, and she had a setback. Rashad, I represented individuals with mental health, and Robert can tell you this. It's very hard, very difficult, especially these individuals who are commit a crime. Okay, and knowing that if they was in their right mind, they probably wouldn't be here and probably never commit
Tell me
that
this:
crime.
do you believe that the DC police, do you believe that they were justified in the shooting? And let me frame this first: law-abiding citizen up until that point, comes from a family of law enforcement. Her sister used to work for the NYPD. If she was driving in any other city in the United States of America, I believe that woman would still be alive today.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, Rashad. I dealt with the Metro Police. I used to live in D.C.
Okay.
And I remember one incident I have a run-in with the Metro Police. And, hey, get back in your car. Get back in your car. Like, sir, I'm just parking my car. Why can't I go park my car?
They are very aggressive.
You can't park your car right here. Move right now.
Yeah.
I go and, report it to his field sergeant, the lieutenant, and, let's let him know, like, hey, this is how he's talking to people, being very disrespectful. If you tell me, sir, you can't park right here, you need to move along. I'm sophisticated.
Sure.
I'm going to move along, Rashad.
Right.
But demand you get back in the car. Shut up. Get back in the car. You don't know me. I don't know you. You don't know who I am. And when I made a report to his officers, to his supervisor, well, what if he said goes? And he actually came over and lied, say he didn't say it. So, one, you got a great point. Would if a different city other than Washington, D.C., would it have happened? Probably so.
And because I lived in D.C. back a few years ago, and D.C. plays by different rules. And if you're looking at the Metro Police, you have to realize that they don't know if this is a terrorist with a bomb in the car. They don't know, just like we were talking about at the top of the show about national security. You don't take any risk in D.C. So it's an unfortunate situation. I personally think that it probably would have happened in other cities if she was driving into City Hall in Atlanta. I'm pretty sure they would probably also. It would have been.
I don't think they would have killed her, Robert. I don't think Chief Turner. I don't think the mayor. I don't think anybody in Atlanta would have had the stomach to say use lethal force, because obviously at some point someone has to approve them to do that type of action.
I think in a situation like that where it's a fast moving situation, someone's tried to drive a car into a government building, you don't know if there's second people coming.
There was a child in the car.
It's a split second decision.
You got a baby in the car.
I don't know if they had all that information.
Robert, stop. All right. When we watched the video from one of the observers on that day, it was very clear that the officers were close to even opening the door. Do you remember that?
I do.
All right. If you're that close to a vehicle and there's a child inside, it's evident that a child is inside that car.
But you don't look. Terrorists have used children as props. They don't care. They've used women. They've used old people. You never know what is going on.
But that's my point. I think it was an overreaction because of where it was at. Because of us being in this state of flux with the furloughs. Right. I think that they thought something else was happening that was not happening. And as I said, if this happened in any other city, I believe that woman would still be alive. You look at her history, law-abiding citizen. She's having some mental issues. She has a child in the car. She's going through a crazy situation. Now, I'm going to reserve complete judgment. I don't know, Robert, is Rainbow Push looking into this and seeing what some of the facts may be?
I haven't been apprised of that yet, but I can check with the Chicago office and find out what they're doing.
I do want to get to the bottom of it. Like the sister said, they deserve answers, and even if the answers don't jive with some people's opinions, I still would like to know, was proper protocol followed, and who gave the permission for lethal force to be utilized?
Well, you have, working law enforcement, you have different things that you can do to stop or any type of attack, to bring down any type of suspect or assailant. You have tasers, okay? You have tasers, and also you have the bean bags. Based on the timing, how fast it happened, those options may not have been available. But you make a valid point with the furloughs, the government shutdown. They're thinking, this may be a disgruntled federal employee who's going to wreak havoc on one of these senators.
And why not shoot the car? I mean, you're a very successful attorney now, but you also worked in law enforcement. You've worked in the military. Why not take out what they consider to be a weapon at that time? Why not take the vehicle out? Why not stall the vehicle?
I think Michael Jackson said it best, is that's human nature. Human factors always plays a part in. It could have been a senior police officer or a Capitol. I think it was a Capitol Police and Secret Service. Okay, Secret Service, they shoot to kill.
Sure.
They stopping the threat.
Right.
Okay, so, I've It's a sad situation.
It's a tragic situation. It really is. But I really can't fault the police officers in this case.
I just want more answers, man, because they're not really forthcoming about the protocol. Like, what made her different? All right, you've had people on high-speed chases all through our nation's capital. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. They're still living, though. Mm-hmm. They're still living.
I think that just because of the environment we're in, where we just had the Boston bombing.
I agree.
We just had the shooting right there in the D.C. area at the Navy Yard. In a fast-moving situation like this, sometimes, and I know it's not right, but it's shoot first and ask questions later. In this situation, that's what happened.
What do you think, Rashad? Why do you think they shot her?
I think they shot it because of the current political atmosphere. I think they thought something else was going on. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is simply my opinion. I believe that they felt something else was going on that wasn't going on. I don't see law enforcement being malicious. I see them being overly cautious and in some cases overreacting. And keep in mind that these shots were fired to kill her. With a baby in the car, all right, with a child. They did not shoot, for what we know, they did not try to shoot to stall the vehicle, which I think would have been a normal operating procedure anywhere else in the United States of America. But given the current climate, given the location, and given what I believe they interpreted things to be, it created an equation that was a disaster for this young lady.
And you know, I think that if nothing else, these last two tragedies that we've had, including this young woman in D.C., and also the D.C. Navy Yard shooter, should bring the issue of mental health in the African-American community to the forefront. We do, I say it again and again, we do not address the issue in the black community. We do not believe in therapy. We do not believe in counseling. We do not believe in going to psychiatrists. We self-medicate. I believe and understand the power of prayer, but we also have to take the medical steps needed when people are going through things. I know Carrie has had the same situation where you're dealing with a client who is absolutely going through something that is beyond what just can fix, and you need professionals that can take care of this. You need prescriptions to take care of this, and because it's one of the last remaining taboos in the black community is mental health. So it's been a great show today. We've had outstanding conversations.
A lot of crazy conversation. And Robert, I kind of believe that I moved you a little bit to the Democratic cause.
I've always been with the Democratic cause. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm a lifelong registered working Democrat.
Robert, I believe that you vote Democrat. I believe you work with Democrats. But brother, some of the things you say.
Look, I'm an independent mind, independent spirit. There is no party line. I am in the party of
I can't wait to see which Robert shows up next week. The Republican Robert, the Democratic Robert, or the moderate, independent, conservative, progressive Robert.
Well, that just gives our listeners more reason to tune in next week to Present Politics every Saturday, 4 to 6, live on Love 860 WAEC AM. Y'all stay blessed and always work for the cause of love.
God bless you guys. Talk to you next week.
You've been listening to Present Politics with Rashad Ritchie and Robert Patillo. Join them next Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. as they cover the present politics that affect our local, state, and national communities. For more information, go to presentpolitics.com.